Welcome to a 5-minute summary of a much larger piece of work that we've recently conducted. We'll be exploring the power of our product commitment score as an indicator of future purchase behavior, and we'll be using the case study of the launch of the Microsoft Surface, both the RT version and the Pro version, to explain the power of the metric. So first of all, let's learn some more about the product commitment score. PCS is a digitally generated score, which is predictive of people's likelihood to buy a product. And it's generated by learning and understanding the language that indicates that someone is on a buying journey. So for example, by learning from people who really have purchased products in the marketplace, we were able to go back and look at what they said in social to indicate how close they were to making a buying decision. So for example, we're able to identify where people are in a 3-stage journey. So the first stage of the journey is the point at which they're assessing your products. So this is the point where people will say, hey, I'm really thinking about buying a new tablet PC. What's out there? You know, what do people like? What do people dislike? The second stage that they'll go through in that journey is the point where they get to preference. So that's where they might say, hey, I'm thinking about a Microsoft Surface, but actually would I be better just getting an iPad 4? And it's when they're making some trade-offs and they're comparing what different products are like in the marketplace. And then the final stage, which we talk about commitment in, is when they actually say, I'm going to buy or I'm going to start using this product. And that's when they make a defined and agreed selection. So what we've been able to do by understanding the language of that journey, we've been able to create a score which predicts that based on where people are in those conversations, how likely they are to purchase, which means that we can help clients to understand how both they and their competitors are doing in terms of attracting a growing number of customers to the proposition that they have in the marketplace. So we'll go on and look at some of the data in a minute, but the key point here is that the larger your PCS score, the more likely you are to be in a growth market. And the way that people will use the product commitment score is to think about, what is your value proposition? How well am I doing in the marketplace? What are the enablers and barriers that I need to address to make sure that I'm pushing people up that purchase journey as much as I can? And the most powerful thing about the product commitment score is that it's predictive of future behavior. Because we created the scoring system by examining behavior in the real world and then looking at the same people's conversations in social, we have learned the language which links to real behavior in the real world. So let's just explain a little bit more about what we've done. So in this project, we asked ourselves the question, had the Microsoft Surface done well since it launched in the marketplace? And had the introduction of the Surface RT Pro enhanced or detracted from the likelihood to purchase those new style of machines? To do that, we looked at a series of other products. We examined it compared to the iPad 4, perhaps the most established in the whole category. We looked at the Chromebook, a new and emerging browser-only machine. And we looked at possibly the closest competitor, the Asus Vivo RT, which is also a touchscreen and similar style of netbook. So what did we learn? So the first thing that we looked at here is trying to understand not only the volume of conversations that were going on around these specific devices, but also how committed people were to purchasing them. So if you look at the 2x2, which you can see here, which tells the story of where all of these products are today, or at the end of Q4 in 2012, it's very clear that the iPad 4, certainly in terms of awareness and knowledge, very much defines the market. They're a clear leader in terms of buzz, but their product commitment score still suggests that there is an issue. So although it might define the category, it's not, without question, the first machine that people will think about buying. So perhaps the most interesting place to look is where we find all of the other competitors. So what's interesting is that if you look at the PCS score, the first thing to say is the majority of that category find themselves in the lower left-hand corner. So really this is saying that within this category, there is very little differentiation. People really don't know how or why they should be buying specific devices over and above any other. And actually, really what's winning it today is the kind of being first to market. So really being the definer, which is the iPad 4. And in fact, what we see here is the Surface, the Vivo, and the Chromebook are all really kind of clumped together. So the consumers are not really understanding what it is that differentiates them. So really, let's try and look a little bit more in terms of what we learned. So one of the real kind of strengths of the product commitment score and the way that we support clients is that we can provide you with real-time, constant information about how your product is moving and changing and how the market is moving and changing over time. So if we look at the new 2x2 on this slide, what we're looking at is the latest things that have happened in Q1, so January to March 2013. And what we've looked at here is adding an extra dimension. So you can see the volume of conversations about likelihood to buy. And again, one of the key interesting things about our measure is one of the big challenges about social data is understanding how and which conversations to listen to. We very strongly recommend that the only conversations to listen to are ones which are directly linked to the behavior that you want to drive. And in this case, you know that all of the conversations that we're listening to and putting into our score are those that indicate that people are on a buying journey. So what this is showing you here is that while iPad 4 absolutely dominates, and in terms of the volume of conversations, it's great, but when you actually look at how well it's doing compared to the category as a whole, you find that it's actually sitting in the top left-hand corner. So what that's showing is that if we look at the industry average, and we've created that based on profiling over 100 of the best-selling kind of technology products in the marketplace, we can see that the iPad 4, when you look at consumer electronics, is actually maybe above the technology average, but actually its product commitment score is declining. So although it owns the category today, we're seeing that that position is being challenged. And if you look at the two people that are challenging it, those are the two that we find in the top right-hand corner. They may not own the biggest share of the conversation, but if you look at the Microsoft Surface IT Pro, and particularly the Chromebook, they're not only batting outside of the tech vertical average, but they're beginning to grow and improve, which means that these two products are beginning to break out of that cluster that we saw on the previous charts. So actually they're starting to redefine what the category means, and they're making it easy for customers to make the decision and to move further up that buying journey. So what was it about the two things that we found? Well, the Chromebook is an interesting proposition. It's a very low price, browser-only offering. And because it's linked very closely to Google, even though the machines themselves are made by other OEM manufacturers, they're benefiting a great deal from the simplicity, the efficiency, etc., that's associated with Google. And they're beginning to create their own positioning within the marketplace. And what we found with the Surface RT Pro, compared to the pure RT, which was the initial one that Microsoft launched, the Pro is much more closely associated to what consumers understand about Microsoft. So something as simple as adding the Pro name suddenly meant that consumers were much clearer about how to engage with the machine. Whereas when the RT launched, the huge advertising fanfare of singing, dancing, break-dancing students, etc., nobody really understood who this Microsoft was. But now that it's about the Microsoft Pro, it's about productivity and it's about Office, people understand how to communicate with that, know why they would want to buy it, and can begin to identify with the device. So we believe that what we're seeing here is two people emerging from that crowded category. So that was a very brief introduction to what's actually a fairly extensive piece of work, where we look both at the advertising campaigns, how effective those were, which of these machines are showing an upward trend in likelihood to buy. So if you'd like to find out more, then you can find the full webinar on our website. And if you look at the link that we're providing here, which is sdl.com/si, you will be able to access the full presentation. And please do feel free to contact us through any social media means, and we'll be happy to discuss it more deeply.